Hi guys, welcome to the Engineering Allotment. We've had this allotment now for about a year. We've put quite a bit of work into it. We're not professionals at this by any stretch of the imagination. What I was hoping to do is hope that this is the first of a few videos that just tries and gives you an idea of the sorts of things that we've done in here and outside, the sorts of technologies we've put in. There's no mains electricity, there's no mains water, as there are on most allotments, don't have that. To try and inspire you and give you some idea of things that you can do if you have an allotment or if you have a garden that you may want to try some of this stuff in. And hopefully you guys can also put some comments down there that can help us. We've had this allotment for about a year now. I will show you some pictures in a little moment of where we started, and I'll take you on a little tour to show you where it is now and what we've got in. But any advice, tips, tricks, cheats, anything like that, please put them down below. So hopefully now you're going to cut to a little bit of a photo montage of where we started.
Okay, so this is it, 13th of April 2019, and this is the start of our allotment. We have already put a bit of work into this. There's a bit of clearance gone on, but as you can see, it is still a mess. I think it's pretty standard the way that you get these allotments now. As you can see at the bottom, there is a bit of a rubbish dump. People were tipping the fly tipping over the top of the fence at the bottom end there. That's our gate, and there is an alleyway just towards the end. It was about waist high when we got it, so we got a strimmer in. That's just the pile of rubbish. Yeah, that took a whole skip to try and get rid of, and a lot of work. What we did find at the bottom end of the allotment was a nice big concrete pad, which once we cleared off all the weeds, the brambles, everything else, we could actually use to put our greenhouse and shed on. That's where we decided we were going to build. So it took a few days to clear, and by the 5th of May, as you can see, we did have a greenhouse. That was the only thing that was on the plot. We did have plans for various things which we'll come on to in a sec, but we had a greenhouse. We had somewhere to make a cup of tea and somewhere to start some plants off. That's the rubbish area cleared. We have started now looking at rotavating and trying just to get a lot of the weeds out. We probably should have weed screened and sieved, but we didn't. But by the 10th of May we did have the rotavator in and cleared one side. There is a path already that you can see running right down the centre of the allotment, which is great. A few days later we came back and finished. Anyone who's done any rotavating will be aware that that's not an easy process. You can probably also see some pallets stacked up at the bottom of the garden there, ready for our shed. So this is the start of the pallet shed. It seemed to me the easiest way to build it. It also seemed the cheapest, as most of these pallets are free. There's a few videos online that you can see on how to build it. We just went ahead and cracked on and decided what we wanted and what would fit. So we've used, as you can see, a few pallets there, trying to figure out doorways, trying to figure out heights. It's actually a reasonably straightforward process. 15th of May there, we've got them started to be screwed together. We've decided the layout, that works best. We also decided that we try and put some wrap and try and make it as watertight as we possibly could. So what we did is we got a tarpaulin and sat these pallets on top of, and we started wrapping that just on the bottom, just to keep the worst of the weather out. The tarpaulin will rip over time, as it has done now, but hopefully you'll see that. 19th of May, we had to go and purchase our first things for the allotment, which was the wood for the roof. The window we got free. Somebody was giving that away. This kind of just shows you inside the shed and the sort of size it is. It feels a lot bigger on the inside compared to looking outside, and we still didn't have a door. We actually salvaged one of those. Again, a very good friend of ours had just changed their front door, so we've actually got a fire door on the front of the shed, which is useful. There you can see the wrapping, and we've also started to put some geotextile on the roof just to try and protect the OSB boards a little bit. And it's starting to come together. We've secured the sheeting down on the side, as you can see, just with some scrap bits of wood for now, until we can finalise it a little bit. Just gives you a little bit of context with the wheelbarrow, just for size. The boards on the right hand side there, they're quite long lengths. I think they're about 8 foot lengths, so you get the idea it's a fair size shed. At the back of the shed, what we've done is we've put some IBC containers, which are those just to eventually put a guttering system up that will collect the rainwater for us. The geotextile on the roof, what we then decided to do is wrap the whole shed in geotextile, again just to try and protect the pallets from the worst of the weather. And then what we did, we started smashing pallets apart and using the planks from that to try and clad the shed, which you can see here. Now that took an awful long time. We were planting things at this point as well, so we've got a few bits and pieces in the ground. This is still a year or so ago. Our lovely scarecrow stood in the middle there. But back to the boarding, these are literally just pallet boards dragged apart and cut to size. And this is a process that took, I would say, certainly a few days. There was lots of swearing, lots of hammered fingers, spelks, splinters, all sorts of things. But actually it starts to look very good. It weathers really nicely. I've left some holes at the top, you probably noticed they're covered in the geotextile, just to put some windows in, just to let some more light into the shed. By the 9th of June, the front of the shed was about finished. The side of the shed still had a little bit left to do. The plan was to go all the way around the shed, but we're going to just use OSB board or plywood at the back of the shed. Nobody can see it and it looks nice enough from the front. However, we did have quite a bit of rainfall early June last year and discovered that we do have quite a bit of drainage problems. Not great for the plants. Somebody did have a bit of fun, that's my little girl. She had very good fun making mud pies. Wasn't exactly ideal for the plants though. We did get a bit of a crop. This is on the other side of the allotment, so it wasn't really affected too much by the water. So we've got some onions and bits and pieces, some lettuce and carrots and things in there that you can see. So last year we did get a bit of a crop. We're going to skip forward a month or so in just a moment, so you can see the growth from that image there. We've got the netting just to stop the birds and things. We have improved that now. We jump forward a month to July, and you can see the bushes now growing, the peas, the beans, but they still lacked a little bit of order. It wasn't easy to manage. The weeds were everywhere, and to be honest, we did make a few mistakes with how we planned this to start with. One of the other things, my daughter wanted a little playhouse somewhere she could sit and watch everybody. So yes, we started to extend the shed back somewhere in July, early July. That's actually now moved. So if we jump forward a year, what we've now done is we've moved that extension across to the other side of the allotment. So she's still got somewhere to sit and play. And that means it has cleared up where the shed, the extension was, for more planting. So we've got some onions in front of that pallet, you can see stood up at the moment. Behind the pallet currently, which is there, doesn't have anything in it as yet, but we will. Jump forward again, getting quite up to date now. We started, so you can see the polytunnel in the background, and we have actually started putting the fruit cage in. It's quite a large fruit cage. You'll see a little bit more of that in a second. It's just some big 4x4 timbers with some rafters in, and I got some scaffold netting and just cladded it with some scaffold netting just to keep the worst of the insects out. We are going to put some raised beds in there as well, just so we can control things a little bit better. That's just a view back down towards the shed. We have put the weed control fabric down as well, so you can see that. Just trying to make managing the allotment just that little bit easier. Also, we've got the polytunnel, more raised beds. The potatoes are in the foreground behind the fence there. And yeah, it's coming along okay. That's just a photograph I took probably a couple of days ago from now. Yeah, so let's get back to it.
So, welcome back. Hopefully that'll give you an idea of where we started and how we've got to where we are. The first thing that we got was the greenhouse. This was one of the first things that we ever put in. We got this free off a friend of a friend. We got the racking off a very good friend who I used to work with. And yeah, you can see some of the pots, plants. So that's the greenhouse. Second thing we obviously built was the shed, which you've seen already. Here it is, looking resplendent in its yes, palletness. I'll give you a little idea of what's going on inside the shed at the moment. Lots of grow bags. Still haven't boarded the inside of the shed out, which, well, possibly I might do. We've got a few tools and things hung up, step ladders just in case. Yeah, it's a fair sized shed. We've got a little kitchen area. I say kitchen area, it's always full of rubbish. There's a few things still left to do in here. Some of you may notice the solar system that we have in. I'll go through that in a little while. There's a few things about that. If we step outside, we've also recently, in the last week or two, put in the fruit cage, which you can see there. It's a fairly big structure. That it's about 4 meters square roughly. Quite a large thing. The IBC container cut in half is just going to be for some raised beds inside there so we can control weeds, etc. We've obviously built some raised boxes, our lovely CD scarecrows. I'll just give you an idea of the sorts of CDs that we have. Let's have a look. We've got a Willie Nelson one, it's a beauty. We've got the Country Hits, we've got the Tremolors. Yeah, you can see why they're in the allotment hung up. We've also got in our polytunnel. Not plans for this, haven't got much in it at the moment. Again, it only went up a few weeks ago. A couple of things in. Just notice the hose pipe. I'll explain that in a moment. And if we walk a bit further down the garden, we've got an area at the back, which is, or at the front as it is, because that's our gate, with our potatoes in at the moment. And then we've just got a sort of soil store, some old pallets that we're going to do something with, God knows what yet. Some paving stones, which I need more of. Anyone has any? Lots of bits of junk wood, and we've got our compost bins just made out of a couple of pallets. So yeah, that's our allotment at the moment. So just to give you an idea of what's going on around the back of the shed, the hose pipe from the polytunnel comes, it's dug in, it comes all the way underneath, and you can possibly see it just coming through the greenhouse because I didn't fancy digging up too much concrete. And it actually goes into the back of the shed, as you can just see down there. I'll explain that in a moment. Here we are in the messy section. We've got a selection of timber and bits and pieces that everybody has. We've got 2 large IBC water containers. They hold 1,000 litres each, fed from the shed roof that come down, and we've got a connecting pipe, which I can maybe show you there, which just keeps the levels balanced. I just need to shut that. There we go. Obviously the pipe runs then into the shed. You can see the controller on the top. There's a go into the shed. What we've got on the roof, we've got a 100 watt flexible solar panel, which comes down into this. So let me try and talk you through this solar setup. We've got a solar controller, so the cables coming from the solar panel come up and into the box. The box then feeds a battery that's just down here. At the moment, sadly, it's just a car battery, it's not a leisure battery. Need to find one of those, so if anyone's got a free one, shout. And I've also put in a switch box just to make things a little bit easier. And we've also got a 12-volt pump, which I'll show you now actually. So just a bit of a closer look at the solar charge controller. So those cables there are coming down from the solar panel into the bottom of the solar controller. These two then go down onto the battery, and this here is wired into the switches. Now the switches I need to label. We only put this system in probably a week or so ago. So we have a voltmeter, which you can see running. We've got some USB sockets that are on, whether anybody uses those or not. And then we have this 12-volt pump. Now this pump was bought from eBay. I think it was about 15 quid. So I wasn't expecting anything really. I was hoping it would move some water. And it certainly does that. It's controlled from this switch here. It's actually got a pressure switch, so this is a pressure switch on the top. So if you are looking at one of these pumps, when you have a look at the back of the pump, make sure it's got these two wires. Oh, my camera works terrible. That go into a switch on the top. Now that's a pressure switch, which means it will pressurize the outfall system, which means you can run it to a hose pipe, and when you let go of the trigger, the pump will shut off, so it won't constantly run. Make sure you get one of those if you're looking at this. Now this particular pump is a Pro Pump XTL3210 12-volt system, and it pumps 8 litres a minute. Trust me, that's plenty. It is a little bit loud at the moment. I have got some foam on the back there. It hasn't really done anything, to be honest. I think I need to move it off the shed wall to get it to do anything better. But what I've actually done is I've run that pipe. It stays inside the shed. It actually comes up here across the top, and you probably can't see it's coming down. There we go. And what I've done is I've run it to a tap. That's the pipe coming out the shed, and it just literally comes up into the tap. Now if I turn the system on, 1 second. That's the system on. It's pressurized, so it's stopped running, and we have water out the tap. We've also got a system, we can plug the hose in. It'll pressurize the hose, and we can then use it for water in the garden. I'll turn the tap off, the system will pressurise again, pump will stop. I'm not sure that the garden hose that we've put in is particularly good for pressurising the system, which is why sometimes the pump does that. But at least it's not drawing power constantly. If we turn the pump on, you know, we haven't drawn a mass amount of current, a mass amount of power out of that solar. I use that for watering pretty much all the garden. I've never had to recharge the system yet. I've got more than enough power. Now this is the pump off, this is just residual power. That's just the residual pressure left in the system. Still going, and now it dies out. So it's quite a powerful little pump. As I said, if you're looking at trying to get some water yourself in your own allotment, I seriously recommend these little pumps. They are very, very good. So the hose pipe that's in the polytunnel, the little short section that's left, that actually comes into the shed here. That's the pipe on the floor waiting to be connected. And what I've actually done is I've ordered a second one of those pumps, and we're going to mount that somewhere in here, I would imagine, and connect that pipe up so we can then pump water from the IBC containers at the back into the polytunnel. We're actually going to connect it to this little system here. Again, eBay is my friend at the moment, excuse my excellent messy worktop. We've got some real small tubing, and all we're going to do is run an automatic watering system. So we have an automatic timer. The hose pipe in the polytunnel will go into the top. and we've got a reducer on here that will take the smaller tubing, and then we've got our nozzles and our little stackers and our little connection pieces. That is a scheme that's probably hopefully going in certainly next week or so. As soon as the new pump arrives, I would imagine that'll be here within the week, so hopefully I can update you with that next weekend and we can try and get that in, and I'll give you some idea. What I will do is I'll put some links down below to some of these things like the pump. I'll put the link to that down below, and I'll put the link to the switch box, and if you wish I'll put the link to the controller and the solar panel. The solar panel's, as I said, a 100-watt flexible panel. It came with the controller, it came with the cabling, and it came with the little connectors, and it even came with the little box, which I'll show you. Even came with the little box. For the more astute amongst you, you'll realise that I forgot to put the connectors on, so yeah, I had to mastic the wires in because there was no way I was taking it all back off again to put the connections on, largely due to the fact that I'm an idiot, but it works. These are the connectors that come off the panel. Again, they came with the kit, and I think it was something like 100 quid for the kit. Need to tidy some of this out. As you will realise as we go through this journey, that most of the things that I build are with pallets. Sometimes we get some better wood from various places. Sometimes we just have to do pallets. As you now are aware, the shed is pallets, and you can see those inside. We bought some timber and some OSB board to do the roof with, that's fair enough. And then we smashed apart lots of pallets to actually clad the outside. So again, that's all clad in. The bench is pallets. There's a couple of larger posts that I got from somewhere to actually make the legs and the bottom of it, but the rest of it's pallets. So yeah, it's a work in progress. So as I said, if anybody has any tips, tricks, advice as to help, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Please feel free to message if you've got any questions about any of this. Please ask them. Hopefully, as I said, this will be the first video of a few as we take the allotment through the summer. It's currently early May here in the UK. Yes, I'm aware we probably should have been a little bit further on with planting than we are now, but most of the last several weeks, because of the lockdown that most of us are under, has been building and just trying to get it from what it was to what you can see now. I've just noticed how horrendous those plywood boards actually look on the floor there, so we'll try and get some flagstones down there for next time. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like the video if you do, and subscribe. Hopefully this is the start of a very interesting journey. Thanks guys.